writer who's off to District 32, I believe it is. Morning, John.
Good morning. I know it's hard to keep track of, isn't it?
Oh man, it's absolute chaos this year. We're a little bit short on time this morning. Sorry about that. We ran a little bit long with our first segment, but let's jump into some wrestling here. Give us your thoughts on. First off, give me some quick thoughts on the realignment. Are you in favor of it, or is it kind of a little too chaotic for you?
Not a huge fan, to be honest. I mean, I'm going to kind of go in with an open mind and see how it works out, kind of thing, in terms of numbers of locals and things like that to get through. But just generally speaking, I'm not a huge fan because, speaking with a lot of people, I like the idea that they were trying to make it a little more fair, trying to bring some of these districts with 4 and 5 kids in a weight class, that kind of thing. But not a huge fan. You know, I always say all year long when guys are wrestling conference matches in the Cape Atlantic League, you've got teams bumping guys away from guys, so you never really get to see, or oftentimes you don't get to see that match you want.
Right.
But they had no choice to bump in district. You know, you had to wrestle those guys. Now they're all over the place, so you still don't get to see a lot of those matchups you were going to see all year.
So, John, what's on your radar for today? You're out at Williamstown, I guess, and is that District 32?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, District 32 at Williamstown, that doesn't sound right. It's been a Gapsigami since before I was on the planet. Just really interesting. There's a number of locals up there, St. Augustine, Buna, but then you've got some of the Cumberland Regional. The one I think is interesting is Barnegat. Again, Barnegat's a short conference team, so now they're making the hour-long drive to Williamstown to wrestle a bunch of teams that they've never seen. So it just doesn't have that local flair. You lose a lot of the rivalry stuff. It's definitely going to be interesting. But yeah, St. Augustine and Buna, the 2 top teams out there. Cal American, Cal National champs. Expect those guys to do pretty well.
What about just overall in general in the Cape Atlantic League? Obviously, Egg Harbor Township had a great season. Some other programs really did well. Mainland had a nice season. Ocean City. So a lot of these guys are going to be looking to get into the regions. How tough is it going to be now for some of these guys to get through to the region tournament next weekend at Egg Harbor Township?
I think for some of them, it's one of those things. For some of them, it's going to be a little tougher. For some of them, it's going to be a little easier. You look at somebody, Holy Spirit, Atlantic City, some of those guys are up at District 29 at Southern Regional. Again, that sounds super strange. Southern Regional's been in District 24 for years. But, they've got to deal with Southern Regional, so they're going to have just about a tough kid at every weight class.
Right.
So, for some of those guys, it might be tougher to get top 3. But then you look at some of these other teams. I would say District 32 is probably a little bit easier than it was, at least on paper. It's still to be seen, but so some of those guys might be able to sneak through. It's going to be interesting to see. Then, let's not get started on regions with the top 4 qualifying.
I know.
Very, very different postseason this year.
Yeah, that's kind of weird in regions. I guess the theory is that so the top 8 seeds at states won't be sitting around for Friday night, but it kind of really does take a lot away from that used to be the best match of the night at regions was that third place match, because if you win, you go to states. If you lose, you go home. So there's a lot of pressure there.
I totally agree, and it also balances out. I like you get more guys a chance to go to states. Not that it might water it down, I guess, but it balances out the brackets. Like you said, there's no buys for the top seeds anymore. But you're right. That third, 4th place match for consolations, where it was win and go wrestle in front of 10,000 people, or lose and hit the buffet. That was just that was one of the most exciting rounds of the year. Now it's kind of I don't want to say it's meaningless. It's still a little bit of placing on the line and things like that, but it takes a lot of that drama out of those 3rd, 4th place consolations.
Yeah, I mean, there's placing. There's placing, but does it really matter at that point if you're the 26th seed or the 31st?
That's exactly right. And I was even saying last night, I think you're going to start to see if guys are a little bit dinged up, if guys are injured or guys, aren't really too worried about their seed, and they, wait till you start seeing guys forfeit in that 3rd, 4th place match just because they're going to states anyway.
Right.
I mean, does it really matter if you finish 3rd or 4th? If you're still going, you're a little dinged up and you need some rest and things like that. Wait till you see guys start forfeiting that match.
So, John, we're talking to John O'Kane, former press of Atlantic City, right? I guess you're kind of still with the press a little bit here, right, at the end of the season?
Yeah, I've been doing all the weight-by-weight rankings all year, then trying to get out to a couple matches here. Yeah, absolutely. Can't get rid of me that easy.
Who's really surprised you this year in terms of your, looking through the rankings? I know you do some rankings. The Courier Post, they get together and do their top 8. Anybody really jump off the page at you as hey, this kid's having a breakout year?
Yeah, I thought one of the guys, and he missed part of the season, was Sean Lynch from St. Augustine. Lynch, for wrestling guys, that they've known he was strong for years. I remember seeing him in middle school in the the guy from, I coached Galway Township Middle School here, a little shout out there. But I remember the kid that was about to wrestle him for my team referred to him as a refrigerator with a head. Always been super strong, dude. Always had the talent, but then breaks through with a big win against Connor Agostino this year, returning state qualifier to kind of, Wenj kind of, marked his, put his stamp on his career there so far. A few different guys. I'd like to see how James Geigel's going to finish up here from Aptigami. Two-time district champion, trying to keep their streak of district champs alive. And then you look for somebody like, again, a little bit out of area here, but Bryce Dunn from Cumberland Regional. Thought he had broken his back, actually. Thought he had a spinal injury.
Wow.
Missed a month plus of the season. Turned out to just kind of be swelling and bruising and things like that. He's going to be the 2-seeded heavyweight today.
What about a kid like, I believe his name is Yilmaz? Is that the right correct pronunciation from Vineland?
Oh, yeah, Yusuf Vilmaz. Yeah, Yusuf Vilmaz. Again, another talented guy. Won the Marinelli last year, won it again this year. Again, not on a lot of radars because Vineland hasn't been having the team success. But look for him to make a run. He hung tough with a lot of guys. Dylan Taylor, he was right there with him from St. Augustine, right there with Andrew Solomon, former Cedar Creek wrestler. So Vilmaz is right there. He made the state tournament last year. Didn't have a great tournament up there. Got a quick pin, but look for him to turn it around.
Talking with John O'Kane here, Press of Atlantic City Wrestling. John, how about some guys I'm interested to keep an eye on this week at District, see how they do. They had a lot of team success this year. Was Holy Spirit kind of revitalized that program on the heels of Pat Darcy winning states a couple of years ago. And how do you see those guys shaking up? Some real tough wrestlers there when you talk about the Wazen brothers, even Reggie Jean Charles as a converted football player having a nice season. Figueroa, he's kind of a bull up there in the upper weights, and some of those other guys, some of those young guys down in the lower weights, they might be able to surprise and get through districts.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see those guys. Again, another Galloway Middle School shout-out, but Mike Wazen was another Galloway Middle School product, as was Reggie Jean Charles. Now, Reggie didn't wrestle in middle school, but always had the talent and skill, kind of knew he'd be a really good wrestler. Wazen's been working hard at this. He's the 1 seed. Actually, he was the biggest benefactor of Sean Bowker. Everybody knows that kind of story transferring out of Southern Regional. He would have been the 1 seed. Wazen takes over the 1 seed, and look for him to make win his first district title. Alec Harper, I know, has got a tough seed. He's got a tough draw in his weight class, but Timmy Fitzpatrick, too, is another guy. Finished 8th at the Beast of the East, kind of let people know who he was. Been a talented guy forever. Look for him to kind of make a deep run here in the postseason as well.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him get through the states.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting, too. You mentioned Reggie Jean Charles. He was kind of going back and forth between 220 and 285 all year, and I saw he ended up making the choice to go 285. So I guess he's going to see, test his hand with those big guys, work on the athleticism.
Take down some big boys, just like in football, right?
He's sure as heck got the strength to do it.
Good stuff, John. Now, I hate to cut you short. We're up against the break here. We'll let you get over to Williamstown, and we'll catch up with you next week and kind of break down some of this region stuff going on as we see who makes it through this weekend. Absolutely. Always a pleasure, Dave. Thanks, John. Appreciate it, man. We'll see you. That was John O'Kane, wrestling guru.